Digressing again.
Had a full discussion by everyone concerned. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make two motions, and the first one concerns the fact, has to do, that is, with our fund
Into the river. The company has, and I may be repetitious when I get back to my text, the company has installed a weir for measuring purposes at the low end of the ditch just upstream of the basin. The discharge is approximately mile 6.
And
Do we know what action they have taken?
a national standard that permits the operation of industries of this type. These two are not consistent. Now, the only thing I can do is to call your attention, the Commission, to this factor, because we're talking about an absolute zero. Those that have testified said that they can't get to an absolute zero. That's one problem, but the other problem is one that is almost as important and earth-shaking as the announcement which I had to make earlier regarding the danger of mercury contamination of fish. As you know, public water supplies in this state and other states are greatly dependent upon the use of chlorine to make these supplies safe. In addition to that, there are a number of systems that use additional treatment to chlorinate their effluent before they discharge to streams. It seems that we have come almost to an impasse and to a very difficult problem of what action is appropriate for this Commission to take.
Now, the most serious situation we have is in Mobile. Now, we had anticipated this, and all of the elements and ingredients were there to cause difficulty, and we've had some difficulty there, particularly at the Murphy High School, although there's widespread dissatisfaction there. The order was very far-reaching and very oppressive. Frankly, it gerrymandered school zones and districts and took many children several miles away from a neighborhood school that they'd been attending and put them in another school simply to bring about some measure of racial balance, something that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals thought was desirable. And now this problem is really critical in my judgment.
How long do you expect to operate like this with two shifts?
Well, really, we have entered the school year planning to do it until some aid has come, and the superintendent has worked up some plans with the federal funds that possibly we could obtain 19 or 18 of these mobile classrooms, which would eliminate the split shift. It would give each teacher a classroom, and this, of course, would enable all the children to come at one time.
Since you have some 300 more students than you had before, due to the closing of the other schools, has this overloaded the classrooms?
No, that's one good aspect of the entire situation that's come up. We have, where we had been having 35 and 40 students per class, with the split shift now, we are down to about a 25 or 26 to 1 teacher-pupil ratio. And this is, of course, almost an ideal situation. Gives a lot more time for individual instruction and individual help when it needs to be given.
We recognize you don't build by tearing down. And in attempting to do what we're going to do, we have no intention whatsoever of destroying the marine life, the bird life, or anything else of the sort. We recognize there will be some, obviously, destruction, but you have to weigh the good against the bad. And we did not go out and seek this medical center to assure us of our dredging, because this was done before we ever dreamed that we'd have any problems.
Congress is in a mad scramble to adjourn the 91st Congress by October the 15th, and I am hopeful this can be done. This would give me the opportunity to visit throughout the state and discuss with you some of the issues and problems that are of concern to you. It would avoid a lame duck session of Congress after the November elections, and we don't need such a session. While early adjournment is desirable, it must not be done by ramming through wasteful and poorly considered legislation. Invariably, bad legislation is enacted in a rush to adjourn, and there is a big backlog of such bills in both houses. Congress should pass the bills absolutely needed for running the federal government, bolstering the nation's economy, and providing for the national defense. Then adjourn and give the country a rest.
As Governor, I welcome to Alabama the American Society of Abdominal Surgeons. The society is today revealing its plans to build one of the nation's finest medical study centers on Dauphin Island near Mobile. The center will be financed through two large grants. One, a $500,000 grant from a large foundation which will be announced soon. The other, a $100,000 grant from the Chandler Foundation. In addition, a Mobile development firm, Anderson Development Limited, is contributing land for the project and will also build a hotel and recreational facilities on Dauphin Island to serve the center.
What have you done to solve the problems of pollution? What have you done? What have you done? Have you done anything recently? I had a high school group that went out and stood in front of Senator Percy's office and saying, Senator Percy, we want some legislation done. We want to see you do something besides talk. Rhetoric is cheap. We now want to see some action. Where is the legislation you promised in your campaigns? I can guarantee you that the next President of the United States is going to be elected on two main themes, and one is ecology. It doesn't make any difference whether we're black or white, red or green, yellow. It doesn't make any difference if we're fighting a war in Vietnam or here in Montgomery, Alabama. If within 25 years from now, if pollution continues at the rate it is, we're going to be dead.
It's a phenomenon that's new. I don't think we should get too excited about it. I think we should study how did it get into the culture and then maybe use the same media to turn it off. I think if we got people that kids are plugged into, whether they're athletes that they admire or musicians that they like, vocalists and so on, to turn them off just the way they were turned on, it could be very helpful. This is happening. Bob Dylan is a young man who was very much liked by young people. He tried drugs, and he now puts it down very emphatically. Sonny and Cher are doing this. Johnny Cash has certainly taken his own experience and is using it now with his talent to try to turn people away from the errors that he made. I think this is one thing that can be very helpful. I think we need a lot more research so that we can talk facts to the kids rather than emotional arguments.
Do you feel like maybe scare tactics have been used in warning the youngsters about drugs?
I know that scare tactics have been used, and I know that they haven't worked either. I think that I've seen occasions where police officers, for example, would address a high school group, and they try to suggest that if you start smoking marijuana in no time at all, you're going to be mainlining heroin into your veins and completely losing the confidence of the audience, particularly if there are some kids there who know that they themselves or their friends have been taking marijuana for quite a long period of time and have not gone on to heroin. I think the better thing to say is that 90% or more of all of the people who are known to be heroin addicts did start with marijuana. That's true. I think then you are tending to suggest that fooling around with drugs of any kind is sort of a game of Russian roulette. Maybe nothing will happen when you pull the trigger. Maybe you'll blow your brains out. That kind of an approach is a much more honest one, and I think one that kids would react to better.
Mr. Salerno, seems like everybody is conscious of the drug problem, not only in Alabama now, it's all over the nation, and they want to do something about it, but don't know exactly what to do. How do you think it got to this point?
be a 9-2. The other piece I want to work.
Now, never has the Army shone so brightly in its history as it has during the war in Vietnam. And no part of the Army has shone more brightly than its aviation. And here is the heart and the center of it. And it's men like you, before you and now you, the air traffic controllers, the enlisted maintenance men, the crew chiefs, and those magnificent young men in their flying machines, of which you'll see a little bit more shortly, that have made this great revolution in the Army's mobility and made it so successfully.
Last year, Montgomery County spent more than $567,000 more than it had taken in from sources of revenues. And County Clerk Henry Southers says $600,000 to $700,000 over the available sources of income will be spent this year. The reason for this, says Southers, is increased demands for services, but no substantial increase in funds from the county revenue sources, such as gasoline taxes and the ad valorem taxes. Salaries have gone up in the county offices. New subdivisions in this growing county adds to services needed that the county did not have to furnish 5 years ago. The problem of waste disposal is or will be in the hands of the county soon. Emergency hospital facilities for the poor will have to be provided.
a code of ethics, in my judgment, with all due deference to Governor Brewer, to the sponsors of ethics legislation, it would do, as far as doing the job that should be done, it would be about like taking an aspirin tablet or a half of one for the double pneumonia or tuberculosis or something else. You're not going to put a code of ethics and change a man's character, and a crook is going to act like a crook, an honest man is going to act like an honest man, and that's the way it's going to be.
Well, at the present time, I feel like, and I think most of our patrons feel like, that we it's going to continue to be peaceful because we're needing more money for our classroom space to get out of these old shells that we are having to use because of this, these additional students coming into our permanent buildings that were the best buildings that we had.
Well, what would it take to return the system to what it once was? In other words, bring the whites back into the Bullock County system.
Well, that's kind of hard to say. I believe that as soon as they realize that we are still having a good school system and that our teachers are being better trained. In fact, we've been in several federal programs to retrain some of our teachers and get them better trained. And I believe when they see that we are going to have a good public school system, that they'll return. And this will probably take maybe 1, 2, and possibly 3 years. But I feel very confident that many of our white students will return when they see that our school system is functioning well and that they can get a good education.
Well, man is a highly adaptable organism. He can probably withstand a much greater degree of air pollution. He can probably devise ways of cleaning up dirty water. He can probably exist in the environment even though other animals cannot exist in his dirty waterways. I would have to say that in terms of considering air and water pollution, that we could go on for a long time. We could continue to foul the air and the water at a very alarming rate, and it would cut down on our quality of life, but perhaps we could overcome it. We can't do that with population growth. In a few short years, the total number of people on the earth are going to exceed the capability of the earth to feed that number of people. And this will bring catastrophe, I believe, long before air and water pollution will bring catastrophe.
How much restriction are you talking about as far as population growth is concerned? Are you talking about limiting it to where we stand today, or going to a certain level and stopping there, or exactly what?
There are ecologists that say that the present population level of the earth, 3.6 billion people, has already passed the carrying capacity of the earth if we want to talk about a quality life, and if a quality life represents the life of the average American today. These people would say that if we would like all the people on the earth to live like we live today, we'd better think about 1 billion people. We have 3.6 billion people, so that answers the question. I think it's impossible to have a world population existing at the present level with the type of life for everyone that we have.